Good. Hello. All right. We're going to get started with this forum. I just want to give you guys some little bit of information beforehand. This forum is on the heart of ministry and missions, and it's going to be set up a little bit different than last time if some of you guys were here. So last time we were able to do more questions from the floor. This time people's turned in a lot of questions prior to this forum. And so if you have any questions, you should have received one of these papers. And if you didn't, you can raise your hand and we'll get you one. You can turn in your questions either online, or if you write out a question, just wave your paper and I'll come grab it. We're going to try to get to all the questions that we got prior to the forum and get through those. And as we have more questions, we'll try to get through those. If we don't get to your question today, though, same with you guys online, you can type up your questions and we'll try to get to them. If we don't get to them today with this panel, we will get the answers to you guys. So don't think we're going to ignore the questions. We will get to them. We just have an hour today, and so we want to make sure we get through and get to the questions that we have. I also want to introduce our panel today and their roles in mission. So as you guys know, Pastor C.J. Young, who is our senior pastor, and next to him is Jennifer Young. She is our volunteer staff outreach director. And so, and then Tanya. And Tanya is our volunteer staff cafe lead. And she also is the lead for Mazatlan here at Adventure of Faith. And then Judy, who is an elder here, and she's also the lead for Senegal here at Adventure. So I'm going to kind of start off by having them say a little bit about their role, and then also kind of what is you guys' heart and why did you kind of get involved in missions, and what have you seen kind of happen by doing that? So get you guys started.
Just because I don't like talking to you now. I'm supposed to do something? Okay. If I'm too loud, somebody tell me. Oh, okay. Okay, how's that? Okay. Well, I found that I got involved in missions kind of unexpectedly. When I was first a member of this church, some folks that I really, really respected and liked asked me to come to a meeting. And I didn't have the guts to tell Pauline Johnson that I wasn't going to come to her meeting. And I've always been interested in other cultures. I was a history major and did teach for a while, so it was something that I was interested in. For many years, I was part of what we called in those days the SEN team, and got real interested in Senegal and thought I would never go, but that was okay. And then after I retired, I had more time. God called me to go, and now I've been several times and have seen a tremendous growth in relationships in Senegal and within our teams, our travel teams too. So it's been a benefit to us as much as it's been to the folks in Senegal.
What was the question again?
How you got involved?
I'm Tanya Hawkins. I got involved in 2016. My daughter went on a mission trip, and I had all sorts of fears about it, and I threatened John and CJ that if my daughter came home with missing parts, I would freak out. Just being a mom, I was scared of the unknown of it all. But when she came back, and the difference I saw in my child was, I can't even describe it in words. So I told John and Bree that I was all in, and that has led me to where I am now. So the following year was my first time going to Mazatlan, And of course, I still had all the fears. My heart is in Mazatlan. So I have part of my heart here and part of my heart there. I love the people. I love the culture. The relationships that we have built with our feeding center host families, the children, the church. So the first year that we went down there, you get assigned a church and you go and you work and do whatever things they need you to do. And then the next year you get another church, so you just kind of bounce around. But our second year, we went to Prince de Paz, who is the church that we have adopted, sort of. They've adopted us, we've adopted them. We fell in love with them, they fell in love with us, and we are partnering with them and growing with them. I can't even describe all of my feelings for Mazatlan. I just absolutely love what I do. So after my first year, I came back and I told Debbie Jones that I was going to take over the sponsorship coordination job, which is also volunteer, for both Senegal and Mazatlan. So I also do that part of it, which I love because I can meet these children. I haven't gone to Senegal yet, but I'm praying about that. But I love being able to interact with all the children, even for people who cannot go on the trips. I, get to see these kids and, send pictures of our trip back to their sponsor family. So I just love all Mazatlan.
I just want to point out that Tanya said yet. She hasn't gone to Senegal yet, which is a big improvement from what she has said previously when it was never. So, yay for that. I'm Jennifer Young, and I am the outreach coordinator, director. Apparently I'm directing things. But really my passion for mission and outreach is both local and global. We've done a lot of things just as a family and personally over the years in our community, just trying to love on people without a real strong sense of mission behind it. We just are trying to get out there and be Jesus' hands and feet. And I've seen that grow and change myself and my children and our family and our little micro community. And I just want to continue to lean into that. So one of my passions is to build up our local outreach. And ideally, we would have another person sitting in that chair over there next to Judy that was that's our local outreach coordinator. And so you can be praying with and for whoever that person is, that they would feel so called. In addition, as Tanya shared about Mazatlan, we took our entire family down there a couple of years ago from age 1 through 20, how old was Haley? 22. And so we guinea pigged on ourselves doing family missions, and so that's a big passion of mine, is really equipping families to serve together both here and abroad. So, yeah.
Am I supposed to go or no?
If you have things to talk about,
I always have things to talk about. Come on now.
I know. I'm learning here. I'm learning how to do this. All right, guys. One of the questions that people have asked is, what ways have you seen God work in missions? You guys were kind of talking about relationships and things, getting to do things together with others. What are some things that you've seen happen in the last few years in missions and that you've seen God do?
Well, in Senegal, when our first teams that went kind of as explorers and decided to adopt a village, we had very little concept of local believers. Senegal is primarily Muslim, as you, I'm sure, know, and the Christians are a very small minority. But since those first years, which were around 2005, 2006, there is now in the area that we had agreed to serve, there is a small but vibrant church, and there is a Christian school, which I'm sure you've heard about, and Tanya can tell you more about how you can help that school through sponsoring students there. So that's one of the main things that we've seen. So much of our function there is not to build buildings or build walls, although we have done that, is to encourage and support the local believers, because they are a minority in many ways. I guess I wouldn't use the word oppressed, because that might be a little extreme, but they are definitely not in the mainstream, and they do face a lot of persecution. But, as I say, we see that when we went at first, there were 5 Western Mission families working in Catherine, and now there are, as of a few days ago, there are none. All the work being done there are being done by Senegalese, including Pastor Abdu, who is the pastor who's our pastor in Catherine and to Senegal, or I'm sorry, to Saracone, our adopted village.
Through the church that we work with, Prince de Paz, our first year that we went, it was just the church building. It's not a giant building. It's not huge, but it's not real small. But anyways, so they have this outdoor patio area alongside it, and that's where during service the kids go out to this outdoor patio area to do the children's part. And after our first year there, we just started thinking, we wanted to help them more, but we also don't want to be, here's all the money, what can you do? So we just prayed about it and talked about it, and the kids, most of the people that go on the trip were all students. So everybody on the trip would cut back on meals, on the price of their meals, and we would start putting away a little bit of money the whole time we were down there. So at the end of our 10 days, we have an offering to give to the church. And with the 4 trips that we've gone on to that church, they have now been able to build, not just because of us, but, we helped. They are building classrooms. So they've gone upwards at the church and have been building, they built a classroom off of their home because they live at their church also. So they have a classroom off of their home, and then they are building above the church. So it's wonderful to see that, the little gift that we can help with is expanding with their church family.
I was just going to say that I have a passion for cross-cultural engagement. So this isn't just I volunteer with this organization, New Wineskins, out of my seminary, Multnomah. And so cross-cultural engagement is like building relational bridges through Jesus. And the way that works with global mission is the idea that, I don't know if you know this or not, but the idea of mission has shifted. And we have a lot of missionaries being sent from China and from the Middle East to the United States, actually, and to East or Western Europe. And it's pretty interesting to see how things are shifting from, the great white hope that comes in and gives money and builds stuff and whatever, to being a cross-cultural engagement. So the way Tanya talked about Prince de Paz, this church isn't, we say adopted, but we very much mean that they adopted us as well, because we seek to learn from them as well. We've never, I don't think, gone to our neighborhoods around here and invited them to church. And that's a regular practice they have. This church does a lot of local outreach stuff way better than we do. And to be able to see these, they have things that they do really well that we need to learn from, and they bring something to the table as well. It's this communal aspect. And Africa is very much the same way. we're not coming in with the we know how to do church thing. They're doing, we're both learning from one another. In fact, Pastor Abdu, he regularly, he actually watches our services and stuff and critiques my sermons and stuff, so it's really good. So, but I just think it's great that he...
Says he talks too fast.
That's true, no one's ever said that, right? Anyway, it's nice to have this reciprocal kind of nature where it's like we're all in this together, all chasing Jesus together, all bringing different gifts to the table, and it's not, we know the right way and we're here to, save the heathen or whatever. We're in this together and we're working together and trusting when we go over to Africa saying, Pastor Abdu, this is your place. How do you feel you're called and God will work in this area and how can we support you in that ministry? It's just a little different. Things have shifted. It's really cool.
All right. Thank you, guys. Our next question is, in what ways do you see, and what goals do you have in the next 5-10 years for missions in different areas that you guys have talked about?
I'm going to defer to Jennifer on that one.
Okay, I could talk for a really long time about that because there's so many directions that we can go right now. Or my role, as I see it, is to help support and encourage the people that are already serving and are already passionate about the areas that they're serving. So we've got very well-established Senegal teams and Mazatlan teams. We have a ton of people that are individually serving in local outreach and mission realms and really trying to help not just connect adventure as a whole, but connect people with other people that are already serving in the community. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to plug that again. If you're passionate about local outreach and want to assist with that, be the head of that.
There's a chair.
Your chair is already here. But really, kind of piggybacking on what CJ started talking about, that shift between just us sending people or sending out missionaries to other places, but to help support and equip the people that are already in those communities, and that includes our own community. So really getting people to recognize, all of us to recognize that our mission field is right where we're at. So over the next few years, really kind of leaning into that and just increasing our, kind of freeing people up to do the things that they're called to do. I think that all of us are called to a mission, whether that's to go on a mission, or if it's just to serve your neighbor, we're all called to it, so.
We're still, and
I can write down specific things if you really want to.
there's Tanya, I don't know if you guys know this or not, Mazatlan's a relatively new ministry. It's not brand new. I'm not trying to say it's not well established. It's kind of hard when you try to compare, Senegal's been around for 15 years, more than that. Yeah, and it's been well established, and it's just very different. In Mazatlan, it started one way, and it started as a youth mission trip, and it's grown. It's very different now, and so I don't. The fact that Tanya doesn't have goals and stuff is because we're still trying to figure out how to do relationships in Mazatlan. So it's very much like, how do we do this? And what's cool is the church is kind of struggling, the other church is struggling with us too, and which feels very relational to me. It's very cool that we have this kind of relationship where we share prayer requests with one another, and we're just trying to figure out how to navigate these waters. It's kind of difficult at times, but yeah, so it's okay. Stay with it.
I guess I would just say, just briefly, we're really what CJ said. In Senegal, we're interested to see what God is doing, because lots of things that have happened and are happening are not things that we planned or that we foresaw. So we want to be available for whatever comes.
All right. Thank you, guys. As you guys were talking about stuff, one of our questions is how can people get connected with missions, and how would they go about doing that? And I know, Jen, you were talking about local missions and if people are interested, but I know oftentimes we just think that the only ways you can get involved are things like going to Senegal or going to Mazatlan. What are some ways people can get connected, and how would they go about doing that? Because there are so many ways.
Be to reach out to, if you know specifically that you already are interested in Senegal, reach out to Judy, Mazatlan, or child sponsorship. Reach out to Tanya. Just in general, you can send me a message. One of the things that we are working on right now is kind of a continuum of education, which, to borrow like a teacher phrase, I guess, but something that talks about the history of adventure, what we've done in the various places that we've served, and how to get involved. So right now, the easiest way is just to make a personal connection with one of us, and we can walk through that. Eventually, hopefully, it'll be a lot more streamlined, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I've already received emails from people that are curious and excited about it. As COVID restrictions lift, we can talk about actually having more in-person gatherings so that we can explore what we can do together too. So.
Well, I guess I have a couple things. So as she said earlier, like we're still building our Mazatlan team up because it has typically been a youth trip. It still is. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's grown because like the Youngs went, and we have adults that go. But if you didn't know, the cafe is linked to Mazatlan. The money that we earn in there goes to Principe de Paz in whatever way that we can help them with the classrooms or with the pastor. We just are, having an open communication with them on what we're going to do with that. And then, of course, if, Judy has the Senegal store also. So the cafe is kind of like the global outreach space for questions or whatever your needs are with wanting to help with either country or with local. But there's also the other part of this is our child sponsorship program that we have. I have 22 Mazatlan kids that still need to be sponsored and 21 Senegal kids that need to be sponsored. And it's a big amount right now for both countries because kids graduated out and then a bunch of new kids came in. So at the end of the fall and beginning of spring, it's like this dump and then this big burst of kids again. So we have lots of ways, and going on trips is not the only way that you can help either country. A lot of people are intimidated about going on trips, but we have lots of other ways and needs for either local or global.
And I would just say, very specifically, we've had some slides saying that we're looking for some wonderful French speakers to help us with some of our translation. And I can certainly use help with the Senegal store. And of course, the sponsoring the students in the Senegal students are all at Bethesda Christian School in Cafrines, which is our center of operations when we're there. So that's a real major thing for us.
All right, thank you guys. And if you guys haven't gone by the cafe, you should. Tanya and Judy have spent a lot of time and energy to make that space really beautiful. And as they're getting more and more resources, you'll be able to see them on the wall next to the cafe. And that's where you can get the sponsor, check out the sponsor kids is on that wall. And I really recommend doing that and just kind of checking it out. They've been putting a lot of time and effort to make that a really wonderful space to learn more about outreach here at Adventure. So another question that was asked has to do with, are there plans to be visible and involved in the community? It seems our focus on missions is often overseas, and which is good to show God's love, but is there stuff that we're kind of looking towards in Port Orchard? And the person had talked about park cleanups and once a year opportunities to maybe clean up. As people come up with these ideas and have ways that they want to get more involved in doing more things here out in the community, which we've talked about a lot, how would they go about doing that?
I love this question because they do mention things that aren't normally what we think of as being missional, like the park cleanup. In the last 14 months or so, things have definitely shifted, and we haven't been able to do a lot of the typical things that we would normally do, like the trunk or treat or the big Easter egg hunt, and things that are pretty visible and like Adventure is known for in the community. And actually, we did for the previous few years partner with the local parks department, and we actually, I think Karen was the lead on doing a huge community egg hunt a couple of years ago, like 1,500 people or something. So there are things that we have done in the past that we will probably try and jump back into as things are starting back up. But really one of the amazing things I think that all of us have had the opportunity to see in the last year is not just about visibility, but it's about people looking for opportunities to serve in their community. And so like I love that this person pointed out things. So part of the big push is going to be really connecting people with organizations that are already doing the work instead of reinventing the wheel. Like we have one of our church members is actually on the board of MEND, who reaches out to families and serves their needs through infant and child and pregnancy loss, which doesn't seem like something that comes to mind when you think of outreach, but we have people that are on the board at Ohana House and Coffee Oasis and a bunch of organizations that are doing the work already. So as far as being visible, I think that's the only thing that I'm struggling with that question. I would love to see us all serving invisibly, right, in all of these areas, but instead of pushing our mission, really supporting other missions that are already in place, if that makes sense.
As far as staffing goes, like we're also in the middle of a shift, kind of. Historically, the last few years anyway, most of our outreach and programmatic significant leadership positions have been staff positions. So staff members run base camp, staff members run these big things. So this question kind of hints at some of the issues with that, like saying, okay, so what ministries are going on in the community, and how is the staff or those session leading those things? And the idea we're trying to move to is a staff-supported congregational leadership model. So, for instance, if this person like, man, I see this opportunity, whatever, and they bring it to staff, that staff's job should be to serve and promote and help connect that person with the community at large here at Adventure of Faith to be able to do that ministry. And it's kind of a reversing roles thing. So as congregants feel called to do mission or ministry in our community, what we'd love to do is hear about it and bring it to the table, and how could we support you, and through the gifting and things that we have at the church to be able to do those things. Does that make sense? So it's kind of a shift in thinking, but anyway.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. No, that was helpful, and I think will help people. You guys kind of talked a little bit about this question, but somebody asked, I've seen it posted that we support Coffee Oasis, but how? And I know that's the case with quite a few organizations. Can you just kind of give us a little bit of, you talked about how we support people that are doing that, and can you kind of give some examples or ways that we've supported Coffee O and other organizations?
So as a general church body, we have a budgeted line item actually for Coffee Oasis, and usually they come to us and write a proposal on whatever it is that they want, and it's specifically for the center in Port Orchard. And it's funny because I think one year we bought vacuums, and one year we bought a Nintendo Switch, and like these, it's pretty varied, but it's nice because we don't put any like barriers on what they can ask for, and so it's actually meeting the needs that they have instead of just something that we feel like, oh, you should have this. The other ways that we are involved are actually, again, it's kind of individuals that have gone down. There are kids that hang out there every day, and they have it open, I'm going to probably say
2:30 to 5.
2:30 to 5:30 for the kids just to come. They can eat, they can get clothes out of the clothes closet there, they can do laundry, they can shower. So they need people to staff that every day. They also need meals and snacks, and a lot of our church members have just gone and randomly made a Costco trip and dropped off granola bars, or contacted myself or the director there and said that they want to drop off a meal. Our family drops off cookies and root beer float stuff on Fridays a lot of times. I know an elder who's not in here.
It's okay. You can talk about Greg.
I'm going to talk about Greg Fund for a minute, who he asked me about Coffee-O and just randomly popped in there, and now he's committed and goes there every single week to help serve dinner. He went through the volunteer training, which they have fairly regularly now, so you can get involved that way, and they'll walk you through just being there and serving with kids. You can serve meals, you can just hang out. There's job training things that they can do, and also advocacy programs. So
This is a small way that our Mazatlan team supports, is we purchase all of our coffee from Coffee Oasis. So it's a small way that we can help.
Thank you, guys. And I know for base camp, we did a whole entire month on missions, and one of the things you could do was collect cookies and take them down to Coffee-O. And our group, Becca, myself, and Bonnie, we have a group of teenage girls, and it was cool to see them get super excited and bring a ton of cookies. And equally exciting when you drop off the cookies to see all the teens and young adults there get really excited about a bunch of cookies. So it's a real easy way to kind of just love on those teens and young adults, and also support what they're doing down there at Coffee-O. So, and they will gladly, like Jen was saying, accept donations of almost any sort. They really appreciate it. So. One of the questions that we also got was, as we manage changes from COVID at the community, national, and global level, what forms of mission outreach does the church now seek, and how are you putting effort into those? So how has COVID kind of adjusted? I know this last couple of years it's adjusted things quite a bit, and how does that look as we move forward?
Well, one of the cool things that happened with us with the Senegal team was the fact that we got more regular with our Zoom conversations. In the past, it was always a big deal. It had to be when Jean-Baptiste could go to Catherine so he could translate, since Abdu's English, which is getting better, is still not real smooth. And so, but now with Zoom, he can translate from Chess, where he lives. So, and then we've just gotten more regular in saying, okay, when we're done with this Zoom call, when is going to be our next one? And got ahead and scheduled pretty much on a monthly basis. So in some ways, we've almost been as in touch, at least with those leaders, now than we were just waiting for us to go on a trip, since the trips have usually been just once a year, and always for too short of a time.
Judy already pointed out the use of technology. The nice thing is, as much as we were very disappointed to actually cancel and postpone trips to both Mazatlan and Senegal. One of the blessings from that was the monies that were already raised for those trips have been able to be used to send to support them, like our translator. No one is traveling right now, or they weren't in the last year, and so his income dropped. And so we were able to use some of the funds that we had raised as a team to travel there to actually just pay him. So that's one of the really cool things about COVID and how we've just been able to reallocate things. Definitely something that I think we've all experienced, ways to stay connected without having our physical presence be there. As much as we love that, it's actually opened up a lot more avenues. My 12-year-old FaceTimes with his buddy at Principe de Paz regularly now, and it's not something that we probably would have normally done had we not been stuck at home. But the personal points of connection, I feel like, have actually grown because people have had to reach out and not relied on, oh yeah, we're gonna go visit in a year. That being said, we are moving forward with plans to pick up our travel mission trips. So there's one that's kind of in the works for Senegal at the end of the year, and then we're looking into 2022 for Mazatlan. So things are going back to normal. We're constantly trying to keep up with all of the regulatory stuff with travel, so that's just an ever-evolving thing there. So,
With both of our trips being canceled last year and this year, and monies that we did raise prior to last year's trip, we were able to help purchase land next to our original feeding center, Montebello. And in September, another church in Mount Vernon is going to Mazatlan to build a home on that land for Montebello. So the feeding centers in Mazatlan, all of them but Montebello, have homes attached to the feeding center, and that's where the host family lives. And our feeding center hosts that used to work at Montebello, they lived in the neighborhood, so it was real easy for them to get to the feeding center. But they have now they just had their fourth baby, and they have 3 under 3. So they stepped back for a while. So another family is going to take over, but they needed a home for them. So it was great that we were able to help purchase that land quick, because things in Mazatlan, well, things in both countries, it's either they move real slow or it's you need to do it right now. So we were able to purchase that land quickly, and so we will be raising money for a fence. Not our typical kind of fence, it's a cinder block fence, but we'll be raising money for that sometime probably in the fall.
We know about cinder block fences and walls in Senegal.
Thank you, guys. It's really cool to see how God's been working through COVID and all the changes and everything. One of the questions we also got asked is, how do you address a need to change focus or flexibility? And I know you kind of talked about that this year. How has that changed kind of your perspective in looking at how you're going to address stuff in the future as things change or as things go along? How will you address a need for focus or flexibility?
Well, anybody who's done much traveling at all knows that flexibility is a key word. And so I think just recognizing that things do change and that we have to be flexible and adaptable. And, I think I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer, but I'd say it's kind of a given in the whole area of mission. you're forced to be flexible whether you want to or not. Even things like flights and,
One of the big things that will be different, especially with the first couple of trips, as far as international missions go, are going to be trying to figure out, okay, what we've been doing, maybe for the past 20 years, that's not feasible anymore. That's not what the needs are anymore. And so one of the cool things about COVID is it's forced us to look at things differently and seeing if, are we doing these things just because we've always done them, or is it because it's still a need? Things have been evolving here and abroad, and so part of that flexibility is going there and saying like, okay, there's not any American missionaries in Cafrine as of now.
Yeah.
Yes, they left a couple of days ago. So that is a big shift, how we've been involved as just individuals going and also as adventurers. So figuring out where we go from here is going to take some of that sitting down and making plans. And the same with our kind of partner sister church in Mazatlan, figuring out not just how we can partner with them, but how they can partner with us. That's I really feel pretty strongly that we have probably more to learn from them on their local outreach programs than we have to show them about global. So it really is going to look different over the next 12 to 18 months, I think. So that's something that we will definitely make sure that we keep Adventure up to speed on.
Guys, you've kind of touched base on this, but I think it would be really cool to hear from you guys as we're kind of getting closer to close. How has missions shaped your perspective? How has God kind of changed you or your perspective in how you look at missions? I would like to hear, it would be cool to hear from all of you how you've been changed. Tanya?
To me, it's super cool to hear it. Like, I'll give you a reprieve for a second, so get your thoughts together. I think it's neat to get outside of this country and see that what's normative here in a Christian's walk is not normative for the world. And so to get a different perspective on that, something at my house now, like we talk about my kids, I'm sure if you have kids, they always say, I'm starving. That's not a word we use anymore. Like that's a thing that they ate what the kids in Mexico eat, the feeding centers and things like that. And we talked about that's often the only meal they get all day and things like that. And so just the perspective shift, and not just in that, but also in people's walks. You know, I think, again, back to we can learn a lot from other countries and I learn a lot from the pastors there. My friend Jean-Baptiste, I like to bunk with him because we talk all night long, and the things they struggle with in their churches are very, makes me think the things that we struggle with is very silly. Like it's just very, we're complaining about masks here when they couldn't meet. The government didn't let them meet for 8 months, and it's just very funny that, we call all kinds of things oppression that we really just have no clue about what oppression looks like. We're just really, paper cuts become oppression in the West, I guess. But it's interesting perspective, and it's a challenge, and seeing the way they do ministry inspires me to be able to do it here and ask the question, like, why do we do what we do here? And not just getting into like a sounding chamber where, well, every church in Kitsap County does that, so that we must do that, instead of thinking more globally. So that's mine.
Well, I would say a lot of, obviously, what CJ said, but in Senegal, where I was going to say 95%, and that might be even smaller percent of the people are Muslim. To me, we think that somebody making fun of us or thinking we're a Jesus freak or a Bible thumper, we think this is, I'm being persecuted. And when you see people whose lives are centered around their faith, because that's really, I wouldn't say that's all they have, but if you are a Christian in Senegal, that's your definition of who you are. Mm-hmm. And so it just really makes me see our So much of what we do is the real lukewarm, yeah, we're going through the motions. And so it's just very inspiring. And the stories, the testimonies that we hear from people there just make me feel really, really humble. And we really need to appreciate things we have that we don't, we often just take for granted. Not just the physical, but the emotional and the spiritual. Family support even. There are people that we spend time with in Senegal who have been beaten almost to death by families because of their conversion to Christianity. So it just gives you a whole different perspective.
Can you repeat the question? I feel like my thoughts are going in a different way.
Yes. The question was, how has missions shaped your perspective?
Well, I think over this last year has, really changed my thought process on what I do and if and when we get to go again. Just with the amount of, like CJ said, I have to wear a mask, or I can't sit close to someone, or I can't hug someone. We lost a lot of people in Mazatlan this last year. And they have a group of pastors that meet, and they lost 4 pastors in the last year because of COVID. And one of them was Pastor Carlos, who has come here. He is what started all of this in Mazatlan for us. And it really hit hard that, where are they going to go now, with this program that they have with the feeding centers. And, in a selfish way, I'm like, I need that. I need this. But my needs are what's important. I love them, and I want to support them in the ways that they need, not how I need it. And then my favorite person in Mazatlan, Mama, she runs Juarez as our other feeding center, and her whole family came down with COVID. So that really hit hard for me also, because I had a invested relationship with the whole family. Sorry. So I just need to check myself and my feelings, and just remember that I have more. They might not have what I have, but they have everything.
I think I spoke about it when we talked about mission at base camp, but one of the big shifts that happened for me was seeing my children on mission. And not just when we traveled, but beforehand, talking to people about it, because we had them do their own fundraising. They had to talk to their friends and family about why they were wanting to leave the country and what they hoped to learn and what they hoped to accomplish there. So seeing them grow in their faith, even at whatever level that was really powerful for me. And then also just the fact that I'm not type A, I am not organized, I'm not a lot of things, and my life is a lot of chaos. My husband puts up with it. But to see that we could manage to bring our crazy troop of people to another country and to serve other people and love on them and be loved on in return was really, it shifted my perspective as far as the future of families on mission, like both at home and abroad. So that hit very close to home doing that. So I think that's one way in the last couple of years that my perspective has shifted.
Thank you guys for sharing your hearts there and the ways that God's kind of changed and your mindset and your perspective on things. A forum wouldn't be a forum without kind of an oddball question in there, because that's just how forums work. We've had multiple people ask about your tattoo, CJ, and they would like to know a little bit more about it. And so I know it's kind of an odd thing here, but
I have a tattoo. I have a couple.
yeah, you have a tattoo. Can you tell us a little bit about your tattoo and why you've gotten it?
I lost a bet, and okay, this is weird. I don't like talking about myself. Let's talk about the Bible. Okay, so Gustave Doré is a French oil painter. Well, he wanted to be an oil painter, but to pay bills, he made etchings, and he did one of like Dante's Inferno, and did like a bunch of scenes from there, and did a bunch of scenes from the scriptures and stuff. And he picked scenes that I just always found intriguing. In fact, if you have an older Bible, you've probably seen some of his stuff. It's in there all the time. And so I have just a whole bunch of scenes from Gustave Doré, and they're like Adam and, I'm not going to show them off. That's weird. Adam and Eve, and Cain and Abel, and creation, and Job, and there's just a bunch of different little. This is all Old Testament on this side, so we'll see if maybe we'll go to the New Testament eventually, New Covenant. But I also have my favorite verse, which comes up all over the Bible. It's in Ezekiel 37:27, and it's I will be their God and they will be my people. Just that statement, I can't read it without like tearing up. I love the fact that regardless of the disobedience of God's people, his declarative statement is that he will be their God and they will be his people. It's I don't know, just saying it makes me want to cry, tear up a little bit. The fact that he would choose us like that. So is that enough? Can I?
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you for humoring us. Like I said, you can't have a forum without kind of a
Yep.
question like that thrown in, but it was something that we've been asked multiple times. So as we close up and kind of finish up, I just want to thank you guys on behalf of the transition team for being willing to be part of this panel up here and talk more about missions. Could you just give us one thing that you hope for in this next year in regards to relationships or ways that you are hopeful to see God move in your missions?
I guess we're looking at our next trip to Senegal as being a time for us for reconnecting and seeing what changes are there and dealing with this really positive transition of no Western missionaries in Kaffrine. Something we prayed about from the very beginning, and we're now there, and it doesn't change how we, just the logistics of our time there. So I guess I would sort of throw it back to that earlier question. I guess I see us being flexible, and that's going to be kind of exciting. It's going to be an adventure.
I always like to set my goals really high for myself. So with the sponsorship program, which I'm very, very dear about, I like to set high goals on getting a certain amount sponsored in both countries. So you'll be seeing more of that coming this summer. I will be doing live Facebook feeds on this because that seems to always work for me, as much as I don't like it. But that's just a huge goal for me because that's what makes all of this work, is helping the children. So yeah, that's my big goal for the summer.
If I could just butt in a little bit on the sponsorships. When we were talking about ways of getting involved, it isn't just money. The money, of course, is important, but it's a chance for you to have albeit not deep, but a relationship with a specific child and their family through letter exchanges and gifts. The gifts aren't the important thing, the letters are.
As I'm thinking about one goal, I think the overarching one for all of outreach in my mind is really establishing and deepening relationships both abroad and here with people that are already doing work, and just actually I feel like my big job is just to remove barriers to allow people to serve in the ways that God's called them to serve. So that would be my big goal.
I'd like to see local outreach become something that we focus on. We find a person that can lead it and help coordinate it, not lead it. But and then, yeah, that's would be my focus.
All right. I just thank you guys again for being willing to be up here on the panel and everything. CJ's holding up a finger, so what does this mean?
Yeah, I wanted to say something real quick.
Yeah,
We talked about it, but I
okay.
forgot to bring it up to you earlier. This is just informative in case you see some stuff happening. Like this summer, you might see we're going to be doing some work in classrooms and moving offices. We're going to be creating an office bullpen for all the staff members. And so moving them out of their offices and making their offices into viable classroom space, because in the fall we're hoping to be able to open things up a little bit more. It looks like that's the trajectory we're heading towards, and so being able to open up classrooms on Sunday mornings and throughout the week and stuff. So trying to create space for that and moving stuff around and painting while we're moving stuff and things like that. So if you see stuff like that happening, just know that that's kind of what's happening. We have a pastoral transition fund that's been that's been saved for several years, and that's where those funds are coming from. So it's not that I don't see all this and think that we're, super wealthy and doing super great. I mean, we're in the black still, right, Leslie? And paying our bills, and so that's good. We're at this point where income is less than it was this time last year, but again, we're still doing really well, so I'm not stressing about that. I just want to understand, be transparent. Part of the point of these forums is to be able to create space for people to know what's going on, be able to ask questions about what's going on, be able to be informed if they see something happening. And so if you have a question, please ask us about what's going on, or ask me, or what have you, because we'd love to dialogue with you. Everything's an open book. Did I miss anything, Candace?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. If you guys do have any extra questions that we couldn't, get to today, you can always drop them off at the Welcome Center, or drop them off during the week. If you guys have ideas of ways that you would like to have forums of questions to be asked or anything, please let us know. We're trying, like CJ said, to help people understand what's going on here and be very transparent and authentic in everything that's going on. So part of this is allowing opportunities for people to ask questions and to be able to say, hey, what's going on and why are you doing it that way? Because there's always intentionality and thought put behind the things. And sometimes it may be we're not communicating well and we just need to know how to communicate a little bit better, or it's maybe we've just, we're doing stuff and we need to let you guys know more of what's going on. So please don't hesitate to bring those questions forward. So if we didn't get to your question today and you have, you're turning one in, we will be getting to you this in the next couple weeks and letting you know. And I just want to thank again the panel for being up here and being willing to tackle some of these questions. I know some of you guys were a little hesitant to be up there, and we really do appreciate you guys being up there and being willing to answer questions on the fly as they come at you. So thank you.
Actually have a video.
I would love to close us in prayer, and then we can head out for the day. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for all the ways that you've put different people and missions on our heart. I thank you as we got to hear the panel talk about how they've built relationships with people, that these relationships are mutual, that we are learning from them and they are learning from us, and that we get to do life with them in this way. It's just so cool to hear about. And as we've talked about with local missions and the different ways people are involved, we pray that you bring forth a person that can help lead that. And you already know who that is. You already know the ways that you are calling the people here at Adventure to support and encourage and get involved in community outreach. And we just pray that you direct us and make that clear to us. We just thank you again for the ways that you are working and moving, even during tough times like COVID. We see how you, God, are working, and we praise you for that, and we thank you. Thank you again for this time to be able to talk together and be open and transparent and be able to ask questions and answer questions and be together. We thank you, Lord. Amen. Thank you, guys.